Where are you watching from? Midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, somewhere between half asleep and fully feral? You're in the right place. And go ahead, dim the lights, turn your screen brightness down, let the modern world dissolve just a little, because tonight, we're going somewhere older than civilization, older than cities, older than the concept of yesterday and tomorrow as separate things. This is your quiet corner of the internet, where we tell stories the way they should be told, slowly, intimately, and surrounded by imaginary firelight. If you like long hypnotic journeys into forgotten ways of being, vanished rhythms, and the deep time before history had a name, this might just become your new nighttime ritual. So, settle in. This is not just speculation, it's an immersion into what your life would actually feel like if you opened your eyes 50,000 years ago. And if you'd like to support more slow, mythic storytelling for tired sapiens, a like and subscribe is always appreciated. No pressure, no algorithm panic, just quietly helpful. Now let's begin. You open your eyes and the first thing you notice is the cold. Not the kind that makes you reach for a thermostat, but the kind that reminds you that warmth is earned, not assumed. The sky above is still dark, bruised purple at the edges where dawn is beginning its slow arrival. You're lying on soft grasses and animal hides, your body curled close to others. 3, maybe 4 people. You can hear their breathing, slow and steady. The fire beside you has dimmed to embers, glowing faint orange beneath a thin layer of ash. Someone will need to feed it soon. That someone is probably you. This is not a vacation. This is not a weekend retreat into nature. This is your entire existence, and it has been for as long as anyone can remember. There are no cities waiting over the horizon, no roads leading anywhere. No temples, no kings, no borders, no laws written on anything. The only rule is survival, and survival is not a lonely pursuit. It is communal, cooperative, and woven into every single moment of your day. You are living roughly 50,000 years before the Common Era. Homo sapiens have been walking this earth for nearly 250,000 years by this point. But civilization as we know it is still an unimaginable distance in the future. Agriculture will not be invented for another 40,000 years. Writing will not exist for 45,000 more. You live in a world without metal, without wheels, without domesticated animals, except perhaps a few wolves beginning their slow transformation into dogs. Your tools are stone, bone, wood, and sinew. Your shelter is temporary. Your calendar is the sky. Your clock is the sun. And your survival depends entirely on what you know, what you remember, and who you trust. Let's walk through a day in your life. Not a special day, not a dramatic day, just an ordinary rotation of light and dark in the Paleolithic world. Because it is in the ordinary that we find the truth of what it meant to be human before everything changed. The fire needs attention. You sit up slowly, careful not to wake the others. The air is sharp and clean, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant rain. You can hear birds beginning their morning calls, layered and overlapping. These are not background noise. These are information. The type of bird, the urgency of the call, the direction it comes from, all of this tells you something about the weather, about predators, about the day ahead. You've been listening to these patterns since childhood. You know them the way modern people know traffic sounds or notification tones. You reach for a few pieces of dry wood stacked near the fire pit. These were gathered yesterday and left to dry overnight. You place them carefully onto the embers, then blow gently. The coals flare orange, then yellow. Smoke rises in a thin column. Within moments, small flames begin to lick at the wood. Fire is not magic to you, but it is sacred. It is the difference between cold and warmth, between raw and cooked, between darkness and light. Keeping it alive is a skill you learned before you could speak in full sentences. Letting it die is a failure that affects everyone. Around you, others begin to stir. An older woman, perhaps 50, which makes her ancient by the standards of this era, sits up and stretches. Her face is weathered, her hands scarred, but her eyes are sharp. She nods at you, a silent acknowledgement. A younger child, maybe 6 or 7, crawls out from beneath a hide and immediately moves toward the fire, hands outstretched. No one speaks yet. The morning is still too fragile for words. Your shelter is not a cave, despite what centuries of cartoons have told you. Caves are rare, dark, damp, and often occupied by animals far more dangerous than you. Instead, you live in a structure made of bent branches, hides, and woven grasses. It is dome-shaped, low to the ground, and designed to be rebuilt quickly if you need to move. And you will need to move. You always do, every few weeks or months depending on the season, the availability of food, and the patterns of the animals you hunt. Your group packs up and migrates to a new location. You carry everything you need, which is surprisingly little. A few stone tools, some baskets, dried food, memories. By the time the sun is fully above the horizon, the camp is awake. There are roughly 20 people in your band. Maybe a few more, maybe a few less. This is not a village. This is a family unit, extended and flexible. Some are related by blood, others by partnership. A few joined from other groups. There is no formal leadership, though certain individuals carry more influence. The best hunter, the oldest woman, the person who can read the stars. Decision-making is communal, slow, and based on consensus. No one gives orders. No one obeys. You cooperate because cooperation is survival. The day's tasks are divided without discussion. The older children and some of the adults will stay near camp, tending the fire, repairing tools, processing hides, preparing food. Others will go out to forage. A small group, maybe 3 or 4, will go hunting. You are part of the foraging group today. You grab a woven basket, check the edge of your stone blade, and set off with 2 others. One is a woman near your age. The other is a teenager, still learning. You move quietly through the landscape, not along paths, because there are no paths, but along routes you know instinctually. This hillside, that riverbank, the clearing near the old lightning-struck tree. You are not wandering, you are reading. Every plant, every insect, every change in the soil tells you something. The teenager asks a question with her eyes, pointing at a cluster of small purple flowers. You shake your head. Not those. Those will make you sick. You point instead to a low-growing plant with broad leaves. This one. The roots are good. She nods, kneels, and begins to dig with a sharpened stick. You move on, scanning constantly. Your eyes catch movement. A rabbit, frozen in the underbrush. You don't react. Rabbits are fast and hard to catch without a trap, not worth the energy. But you note its presence. Where there is one, there are more. You'll remember this spot. By midday, your basket is half full. Roots, tubers, wild onions, a handful of nuts, some mushrooms you recognize. You also found a bird's nest with 3 eggs. You took 2, left 1. This is not kindness. This is strategy. If you take them all, there will be no birds next season. You've learned this not from a book, but from watching, from listening to the stories told around the fire, from the quiet corrections of elders who have seen what happens when you take too much. Foraging is not gathering. It is a science. You know which plants are edible in spring but toxic in summer. You know which roots need to be boiled, which can be eaten raw, which should be roasted. You know that the bark of a certain tree can stop bleeding, that the sap of another can seal a wound, that the leaves of a third can calm a fever. This knowledge is not written anywhere. It is carried in your body, in your memory, and in the collective memory of your group. If you forget, someone else remembers. If everyone forgets, people die. You return to camp in the early afternoon. The hunters are not back yet. This is not unusual. Hunting is unpredictable. Sometimes they return within hours, sometimes they are gone for days. You empty your basket near the fire. The older woman sorts through what you've brought, nodding in approval. She sets aside some of the roots for immediate cooking, the rest for drying. Nothing is wasted. Even the scraps will be used. Fibers for cordage, husks for tinder, bones for tools. While you wait, you sit and begin working on a basket. Weaving is repetitive, meditative. Your hands move without thought. You learned this as a child by watching, by trying, by failing, by trying again. No one taught you in the formal sense. You simply absorbed it, the way children absorb language. Around you, others are working too. Someone is scraping a hide. Someone is sharpening a blade. Someone is singing softly, a melody without words. The child from this morning is playing near the fire, shaping mud into small figures. You watch for a moment. The child is learning, not from instruction, but from imitation. This is how everything is passed down, through presence, through repetition, through the quiet accumulation of attention. The hunters return near sunset. They are carrying something, a young deer already gutted. The mood in camp shifts immediately. Meat means celebration. It means full bellies. It means fat and marrow and strength. The hunters are greeted not with applause, but with quiet efficiency. The deer is laid out near the fire. Someone brings water. Someone else brings blades. The butchering begins immediately. Every part of the animal will be used. The meat, obviously. The hide for clothing or shelter. The bones for tools. The sinew for binding. The stomach as a water pouch. The hooves boiled for glue. Even the antlers, if it had them, would be carved into something useful. Nothing is wasted because waste is death. You help with the butchering, your hands are stained red, the smell is rich and metallic. This is not disturbing to you, this is normal. You have been doing this since you were old enough to hold a blade. You know where to cut, how to separate muscle from bone, how to strip the hide without tearing it. This is anatomy learned through touch, not textbooks. As the sun sets, the meat is cooking. Some of it roasts directly on the fire. Some is wrapped in leaves and placed in the coals. The smell is overwhelming, primal. Your mouth waters. You have not eaten meat in several days. Your diet is mostly plant-based, not by choice, but by availability. Meat is rare, precious, and communal. When it comes, it is shared, not equally necessarily, but fairly. The hunters eat first, then the elders, then everyone else. The children are fed by hand, small pieces torn and offered. No one goes hungry when there is food. And when there is no food, everyone is hungry together. The meal is slow. There is no table, no plates, no utensils. You eat with your hands, tearing meat from bone, chewing slowly. The fat coats your lips. The marrow is sucked from split bones. This is not polite. This is efficient. Your body needs every calorie. You are lean, muscular, and constantly moving. Your metabolism is different from a modern human's. You burn energy faster, store fat less easily. You need to eat when you can because you never know when the next meal will come. After the meal, as the fire burns high and the sky darkens, the real heart of the day begins. This is when the stories come. This is when the songs start. This is when the group becomes more than a collection of individuals trying to survive. This is when you become a culture. Someone begins to speak, an elder usually. The voice is low, rhythmic, almost chanting. The story is one you've heard before, many times. But that doesn't matter. Repetition is the point. Repetition is how memory survives. The story is about the first hunt, or the time the river flooded, or the ancestor who walked into the mountains and came back changed. The details shift slightly each time, but the core remains. These stories are not entertainment. They are education. They are lore. They are identity. They tell you who you are, where you came from, and how to behave. Children listen with wide eyes. Adults listen with closed ones. You listen with your whole body, feeling the rhythm of the words, the rise and fall of the voice. The fire flickers, shadows dance on faces. Someone begins to hum, someone else taps a stick against a stone. The rhythm builds, you feel it in your chest. Someone stands and begins to move, swaying, stepping, mimicking the movements of an animal. This is not performance. This is participation. This is how knowledge moves from mind to body, from generation to generation. The night deepens. The fire is fed again. Slowly, people begin to drift towards sleep. You lie down near the warmth, close to others. There is no privacy. There is no solitude. You are never alone. Even in sleep, you are part of the group. You can hear breathing, shifting, the occasional cough or murmur. This is not intrusive. This is safety. If something approaches in the night, someone will wake. If a child cries, someone will respond. You are embedded in a web of mutual care that requires no contracts, no promises, no formal agreements. It simply is. You close your eyes. Your body is tired but not exhausted. Your mind is quiet but not empty. You do not worry about tomorrow in the way modern people do. There is no mortgage, no deadline, no appointment. There is only the next day, which will be much like this one. You will wake, you will tend the fire, you will forage or hunt or repair, you will eat if there is food, you will tell stories if there is time, you will sleep when darkness comes. This is not monotony. This is rhythm, and rhythm is what your brain was built for. But let's go deeper. Let's talk about what you don't have. You don't have a name in the way we think of names. You have a sound people use to get your attention, but it's more like a nickname, fluid and contextual. You don't have an age. You know roughly how many winters you've seen, but you don't count them. You don't celebrate birthdays. Time is not linear for you. It's cyclical. The seasons return. The moon waxes and wanes. The herds migrate and come back. You measure your life not in years, but in events. The year of the big fire. The winter we moved to the coast. The time the child was born during the storm. You don't own anything. Not really. You have tools you made, but if someone else needs them, they take them. You have clothing, but it's shared when necessary. You have no concept of private property because there is nothing to own. The land is not yours. The animals are not yours. Even your body, in a sense, belongs to the group. If you are injured, they care for you. If you are sick, they feed you. If you die, they mourn you and remember you in stories. There is no wealth, there is no poverty, there is only enough or not enough, and that is determined by the season, the weather, and luck. You don't have religion in the formal sense. There are no temples, no priests, no scriptures, but you have belief. You believe that the world is alive, that animals have spirits, that the dead go somewhere, that dreams are messages. You perform rituals small and large. You leave offerings. You sing to the rain. You paint ochre on stones and hide them in sacred places. You don't question whether this works. It's simply what you do, what your parents did, what their parents did. It connects you to something larger than survival. It gives shape to the mysteries you cannot explain. Why does the sun return? Why do some children die and others live? Why do the herds come some years and not others? You don't have answers. You have stories, and stories are enough. You don't have loneliness in the modern sense. You are never truly alone. But you do have solitude. Brief moments when you wander away from camp to relieve yourself or to think. These moments are rare and precious. You sit on a rock and look at the horizon. You watch clouds. You listen to wind. You feel something you can't name, a kind of awe or melancholy or peace. You don't have the language to describe it. You just feel it. And then you return to camp and the feeling fades, absorbed back into the collective rhythm. You don't have boredom. Not the kind that comes from too much comfort. You have waiting, yes. Long stretches of sitting by the fire, repairing tools, watching the sky. But your mind doesn't race. You don't scroll. You don't fidget. You simply are. Your attention is full because there is always something to notice. The way the light changes, the sound of a bird, the smell of rain coming. You are not entertained, you are present. You don't have anxiety about the future. You worry, yes, about food, about predators, about injury, but you don't catastrophize. You don't spiral. You don't lie awake imagining scenarios that haven't happened. Your stress response is acute, not chronic. When danger appears, your body floods with adrenaline. You run or fight or freeze. And then, when the danger passes, your body calms. You don't carry the threat with you. You don't ruminate. You return to baseline. This is what your nervous system was designed for. Sharp peaks of stress followed by deep valleys of rest, not the constant low-grade hum of modern anxiety that never quite resolves. You don't have depression in the clinical sense. You have grief, yes. You lose people. Children die, partners die, elders die. And when they die, you mourn, you wail, you cut your hair, you paint your face, you sit in silence. The group mourns with you. And then, slowly, life continues. The grief doesn't disappear, but it becomes part of the story, part of the fabric. You don't feel broken, you feel sad. And sadness in your world is not pathologized. It's honored, it's expected, it's human. You don't have identity crises. You know who you are. You are part of this group. You are the person who is good at weaving, or fast at running, or funny, or quiet. You don't wonder what your purpose is. Your purpose is survival, connection, continuation. You don't ask what it all means, you live the meaning every day, in every action. But let's also talk about what you do have. You have intimacy. Deep, embodied, constant intimacy. You know the people in your group better than most modern people know their own families. You know their rhythms, their moods, their scars, their stories. You sleep beside them, you eat with them, you argue with them, you laugh with them. There is no pretense, no performance. You see each other at your worst and your best, and you stay. Not because you choose to in some abstract romantic sense, but because there is no alternative. And in that lack of alternative, there is a kind of profound acceptance. You have competence. You know how to do things, real things. You can make fire from scratch. You can track an animal for miles. You can identify hundreds of plants. You can navigate by the stars. You can craft tools from stone. You can sew clothing from hide. You can build a shelter in an afternoon. You are not dependent on systems or institutions or experts. You are capable. And that capability gives you a kind of confidence that has nothing to do with arrogance. It's just knowing that you can survive. You have awe. You see the night sky without light pollution. You see the Milky Way as a river of light. You see storms roll across plains. You see animals in their full wild power. You see birth and death up close. You see the world not as a backdrop, but as a living presence. And that presence humbles you, it dwarfs you, and somehow that makes you feel more connected, not less. You have rhythm. Your life moves with the sun, the moon, the seasons. You wake with light. You sleep with dark. You eat when there is food. You rest when there is not. You don't fight against your biology, you live within it. Your circadian rhythm is strong, your gut is healthy, your sleep is deep, your body and your environment are synchronized in a way that modern life has shattered. You have meaning, not the kind you have to search for or construct or justify. but the kind that is embedded in every action. You gather food to feed your people. You make tools to help your people. You tell stories to teach your people. Everything you do matters because everything you do affects survival. There is no busy work, no pointless meetings, no emails that could have been avoided. Every action has weight. And that weight paradoxically makes life lighter because you're not questioning whether it matters. It does. Now let's talk about the things that would shock you about your life. Things that would seem normal to you but horrifying to a modern observer. You have seen death constantly. You've seen children die from illness, from accidents, from predators. You've seen adults die from infected wounds, from childbirth, from starvation. Death is not hidden, it's not sanitized, it's not managed by professionals in sterile rooms. It happens in front of you, and you touch it, you prepare the body, you mourn, you bury or burn or leave it for scavengers depending on your customs. And then you continue, because you have to. You have been hungry. Not the kind of hunger that makes you irritable before lunch, but the kind that makes your stomach cramp and your thoughts slow and your body weak. You've gone days without substantial food. You've watched others go longer. Hunger is not a failure. It's a season. It comes and goes. And when food returns, you feast. You eat until you're uncomfortably full because you don't know when the next meal will come. You have been cold, truly cold. The kind that makes your fingers numb and your breath visible and your body shake uncontrollably. You've huddled with others for warmth. You've woken with frost on your skin. You've kept the fire going through the night, not for comfort, but for survival. Cold is not an inconvenience. It's a threat. You have been in pain. You've had infections, broken bones, burns, deep cuts, and you've had no medicine, no anesthetic, no antibiotics. You've endured it. Others have helped you. They've held you down while someone reset a bone. They've packed wounds with moss. They've sung to distract you. And somehow many times you've healed, not always, but often enough. You have never been alone in the modern sense. You've never had a room to yourself. You've never closed a door. You've never had a moment of complete privacy, and you don't miss it because you don't know it exists. The idea of living alone, of spending days without seeing another human, would seem like torture to you, or madness. You have never seen a mirror. You know roughly what you look like from reflections in water, from touching your own face, from how others react to you. But you've never studied yourself. You've never obsessed over your appearance. You don't know if you're attractive by some objective standard. You know if you're healthy, you know if you're strong, that's what matters. You have never read a book, never seen a written word, never been exposed to ideas from distant places or distant times. Your knowledge comes from direct experience and oral tradition. This limits you in some ways. You will never know about civilizations on other continents. You will never read philosophy. You will never access the accumulated knowledge of thousands of years. But it also frees you. You are not drowning in information. You are not paralyzed by options. You know what you know, and what you know is enough. You have never had a career, never wondered what you want to be when you grow up, never felt the pressure to achieve or succeed or leave a legacy. You are simply here, and being here is enough. Let's talk about your relationships. The people in your band are not just your community, they are your entire world. There are no strangers, no acquaintances, no distant relatives you see once a year. Everyone is close, and that closeness is complicated. You love some of them, you tolerate others, you're frustrated by a few, but you're stuck with all of them. There's no moving to a new city, no cutting people out of your life. You have to navigate every conflict, every tension, every personality clash, because survival depends on cohesion. Children are raised communally, mothers are primary caregivers, yes, but everyone helps. If a mother is sick, someone else nurses the baby. If a mother dies, the child is absorbed into the group. There are no orphanages, no foster systems. Children belong to everyone, and everyone teaches them, not formally, but constantly. A child watches you weave and learns to weave, watches you track and learns to track, Watch as you navigate conflict and learns to navigate conflict. There is no childhood as a separate protected stage. Children are small adults in training. They play, yes, but their play is practice. They chase each other to build speed. They climb trees to build strength. They mimic hunts to learn strategy. Elders are treasured, not sentimentally, practically. They are walking libraries. They remember things. They've seen more seasons, more patterns, more solutions. When someone gets sick, the elder remembers a plant. When the weather turns strange, the elder remembers the last time it happened. When conflict arises, the elder remembers how it was resolved before. They are consulted. They are fed even when food is scarce. Because losing an elder is losing knowledge, and losing knowledge can mean losing lives. Partnerships are fluid. You have a partner maybe, someone you share a sleeping space with, someone you prefer, someone you trust. But there are no marriage ceremonies, no legal bonds, no formal commitments. If the relationship stops working, you separate. No paperwork, no courts, just a quiet shift, and the group absorbs it. Children are still cared for, resources are still shared, life continues, jealousy exists. Of course it does. You're human, but it's managed differently. There's no private property to fight over, no inheritance, no wealth. Jealousy is usually about attention, about perceived favoritism, about respect, and it's handled through the group, not through authority figures, because there are none, but through consensus, through conversation, through social pressure. If you're being unreasonable, people let you know, not harshly, but clearly. And you adjust, because you have to, because your survival depends on not fracturing the group. Violence happens, rarely, but it does. Arguments escalate. Someone strikes someone. The group intervenes immediately, not with punishment in the formal sense, but with consequences. The aggressor is shamed, isolated, made to understand that their actions threatened the group. If it happens again, they might be expelled. Exile is the worst punishment imaginable, because exile is death. A human alone in the Paleolithic world does not last long. So violence is rare because the cost is unbearable. Now let's talk about your mind. Your brain is structurally identical to a modern human's. You're not less intelligent. You're differently focused. You can't do calculus. You've never heard of algebra. But you can calculate trajectories intuitively when throwing a spear. You can estimate distances, angles, wind speed, all in an instant. You can remember the location of hundreds of plants across miles of terrain. You can read tracks that are days old and reconstruct an entire narrative, where the animal was going, how fast, whether it was injured, whether it was alone. Your memory is extraordinary, not because you have a better brain, but because you use it differently. You don't outsource memory to devices. Everything you need to know is in your head, and you've trained that head since birth. You remember stories word for word because you've heard them dozens of times. You remember trails because you've walked them dozens of times. You remember faces because you see the same faces every day. Your memory is not abstract. It's spatial, emotional, embodied. You remember things in context, not as isolated facts, but as part of a web of relationships. Your attention span is different. You can focus on a single task for hours, scraping a hide, carving a tool, tracking an animal, because there are no interruptions, no notifications, no distractions. Your mind settles into a flow state easily, but you also have a different kind of vigilance. You're always scanning, always listening, always aware of your surroundings, not anxiously, naturally. This is called diffuse attention. You're not focused on one thing. You're open to everything, and this makes you incredibly good at noticing small changes, a broken twig, a shift in wind, a distant sound. You dream vividly, and your dreams matter. They're not dismissed as random neural firing. They're interpreted, discussed. Sometimes they guide decisions. If an elder dreams of a place, the group might travel there. If you dream of an animal, you might adjust your hunting plans. Dreams are seen as messages from the spirit world, from ancestors, from the land itself. This isn't superstition to you, it's information, and often it proves useful because your subconscious is processing patterns you haven't consciously noticed, and dreams bring those patterns to the surface. You don't have existential dread. You don't lie awake wondering why you exist or what happens after death. You have beliefs about these things, yes, but they're settled. They're not questions, they're stories, and the stories are enough. You don't need proof. You don't need certainty. You have narrative. And narrative provides structure, meaning, comfort. You also don't have nihilism. The idea that nothing matters would be absurd to you. Everything matters. Every action, every choice, because every action affects the group. And the group is everything. Let's talk about joy. Because your life is not grim. It's hard, yes, but it's also full of moments of profound joy. The joy of a successful hunt. The joy of finding a grove of ripe fruit. The joy of a child's laughter, the joy of sitting by the fire after a meal, warm and full and surrounded by people you love. The joy of singing together, of moving together, of being together. These moments are not rare. They're woven into the fabric of your days, because joy in your world doesn't require special circumstances. It just requires presence. You laugh, often. Humor is social glue. You tease each other. You tell jokes, you mimic animals and people and make everyone laugh. Laughter is not frivolous, it's essential. It releases tension, it bonds the group, it makes hard days bearable. You dance, not at clubs, not at weddings, just around the fire. When the mood strikes, when the rhythm builds, someone starts moving and others join. It's not performance, it's expression. It's release, it's connection. Your body knows how to move. You don't need lessons. You just feel the beat and respond. You sing. Not perfectly, not formally, just songs that have been passed down. Songs with words and songs without. Songs for greeting the dawn. Songs for mourning. Songs for celebrating. Songs for no reason at all. Singing is not entertainment, it's communication, it's memory, it's medicine. Now let's talk about fear, because you are afraid sometimes. You're afraid of predators, large cats, bears, hyenas, wolves. These are real threats. You've seen people killed, you've seen people injured, so you're cautious. You don't wander alone at night. You keep the fire burning, you watch the shadows, but your fear is proportional. It's not generalized anxiety, it's specific response to specific threats. And when the threat passes, the fear passes. You're afraid of starvation, of getting lost, of the group fracturing. These are rational fears, and they shape your behavior. You're careful not to waste food. You pay attention to landmarks. You work to maintain relationships, but you're not paralyzed by these fears. They're background hum, not foreground panic. You're not afraid of judgment in the way modern people are. You don't worry about embarrassing yourself or failing to meet expectations. There are social norms, yes, but they're simple. Share food, help others, don't endanger the group. If you follow these, you're fine. You're not performing an identity. You're not curating an image. You're just being. Let's talk about time one more time, because this might be the most alien aspect of your life to a modern observer. You have no sense of being late, no sense of wasting time, no sense of time as a finite resource that must be optimized. Time simply passes. Day turns to night. Season turns to season. You mark time by events, not increments. The time before the fire, the time after the child was born, the time of the great cold. You don't count days, you don't count years. You exist in an eternal present that stretches back into memory and forward into expectation, but never crystallizes into precise measurement. This gives your life a kind of spaciousness that modern life lacks. You're never rushed, never behind schedule, never racing against a deadline. Things happen when they happen. You eat when you're hungry and food is available. You sleep when you're tired and it's safe. You rest when your body needs rest. You move when movement is required. There's no separation between work and life. It's all just life. And here's the strange thing, despite the hardship, despite the danger, despite the discomfort, there's a case to be made that you're happier than most modern people. Not in a moment-to-moment hedonic sense. You're often cold, often hungry, often tired, but in a deeper sense, a sense of meaning, of connection, of purpose, of belonging. You are never isolated, never alienated, never disconnected from the source of your survival. You see the direct relationship between your actions and your outcomes. You gather food and you eat, you make a tool and you use it, you help someone and they help you back. There's no abstraction, no layers of bureaucracy or institutions or markets, just direct cause and effect. And that creates a kind of psychological coherence that modern life has shattered. You are not bombarded with choices. You don't suffer from decision fatigue. Your options are limited by reality. You eat what's available. You wear what you can make. You go where the food is. This simplicity is not limiting. It's liberating because it removes the paralysis of infinite possibility. You are not comparing yourself to billions of people. You're only comparing yourself to the 20 people in your group. And even then, comparison is not about achievement or status. It's about skill and contribution. Are you good at tracking? Great. Are you good at weaving? Wonderful. Everyone has something they're good at. Everyone contributes. There's no hierarchy of value, no sense that some work is more important than other work. It's all necessary. You are living in your body, not in your head. You're not lost in abstraction, in planning, in rumination. You're sensing, moving, doing. Your hands are busy. Your mind is engaged, but not overthinking. You're in flow states constantly, not because you're trying to be, but because your life naturally creates them. So what would it be like if you lived in a prehistoric era? It would be harder than anything most modern humans can imagine, and yet it would also be simpler, richer, more connected, more present. It would be a life where every sunrise meant something, where every meal was earned, where every person mattered, where every story carried weight. But let's not romanticize too much. Let's talk about the things that would break you, the things that would make you grateful for modernity even as you recognize what's been lost. You would watch children die. Not rarely, frequently. Infant mortality in the Paleolithic is estimated at around 30 to 40%. Nearly half of all children born don't make it to adulthood. You would hold babies who stop breathing. You would bury children who get sick with fevers that won't break. You would lose sons and daughters to accidents, to predators, to infections that a modern antibiotic could cure in days. And you would have no explanation beyond the spirit world, no understanding of bacteria or viruses, no ability to prevent or treat most illnesses, just prayers and plants and hope. And when hope fails, grief. You would lose partners young. Childbirth is dangerous. Women die giving birth regularly. Men die hunting, from falls, from attacks, from infected wounds. If you live to 40, you're lucky. If you live to 50, you're remarkable. Most people you know will die before their hair goes grey. And you will carry that knowledge always, the fragility of it all. How quickly someone can be here and then gone. You would experience pain that would seem unbearable. A broken bone with no way to properly set it. An abscessed tooth with no way to extract it. A deep cut that gets infected with no antibiotics to fight it. You would have to endure. Because there's no alternative. People would help you. They would do what they could. But mostly, you would just have to survive it. And sometimes you wouldn't. Sometimes the pain would win. You would be cold in ways that make your bones ache. Winter would not be a season you enjoy from inside a heated home. It would be a trial, a test of preparation and endurance. You would wake with frost on your body. You would spend entire days shivering despite the fire. You would wear every piece of clothing you own and still feel the cold seeping in. And you would count the days until spring, not with excitement, but with desperation. You would be dirty, constantly. There are no showers, no soap, no way to truly get clean. You wash in cold rivers when you can. You scrape your skin with stones. You rub yourself with sand and grasses, but you never feel truly clean. Your hair is matted. Your skin is grimy. Your nails are broken and black underneath. This is just how bodies are, and you stop noticing after a while. But at first, it would drive you mad. You would itch from insect bites, from parasites, from dry skin, from plant irritants. You would have lice. Probably. Most people do. You would have fleas, ticks, mites. You would scratch yourself raw, and the itching would return. This is one of those small, constant miseries that modern hygiene has almost entirely eliminated. And you wouldn't realize how much it affects your quality of life until you experience it constantly. You would be afraid of the dark in a way modern people can't understand. Because the dark is dangerous. Predators hunt at night. It's easy to get lost at night, easy to fall, easy to injure yourself. The fire is your only protection. And if the fire goes out, you are vulnerable. So you would lie awake sometimes, listening to every sound, trying to identify whether it's wind or an animal, trying to decide whether to wake the others or let them sleep, living with a low level of vigilance that never fully turns off. You would have no way to preserve most food. Meat spoils quickly in warm weather. You can dry it, smoke it, but even then, insects and rot threaten constantly. So when there's a kill, you eat as much as you can. You gorge yourself because you don't know when the next meat will come. And then you might go weeks with nothing but plants. Your body would learn to function on this feast and famine cycle, but it would never feel comfortable. You would always be slightly preoccupied with food, where it is, when you'll get it, whether there will be enough. You would have no privacy for bodily functions. You would urinate and defecate in front of others, not deliberately, but there's no bathroom. You walk a short distance from camp, squat, and return. Everyone does this, multiple times a day. It's not shameful. It's just reality. But if you came from the modern world, this would be one of the most uncomfortable adjustments. The complete lack of privacy around the most private functions. You would have no contraception. Sex would often lead to pregnancy. Pregnancy would often lead to birth. Birth would often lead to more mouths to feed. You would have no way to plan your family, no way to prevent conception beyond abstinence or timing, which is unreliable. So families would be large, and not everyone could be fed. Infanticide, though rarely discussed, was likely practiced in times of extreme scarcity. The choice between one child surviving and all children starving. These are the kinds of decisions that would haunt you. You would have no way to fix certain injuries. If your back goes out, you live with it. If your knee is damaged, you limp. If you lose an eye, you're half blind. If you lose a hand, you're disabled. There's no surgery, no physical therapy, no prosthetics. Your body is your only tool, and when it breaks, you adapt or you die. Many people with significant disabilities probably didn't survive long, not because the group was cruel, but because survival was physically demanding. If you couldn't keep up, couldn't contribute, the group couldn't always support you. This is a harsh reality that modern medicine has allowed us to transcend, and it's worth acknowledging. You would watch people change from injury or illness, a blow to the head that leaves someone different, a fever that damages their mind, age that brings dementia or confusion, and you would have no framework for understanding what happened. Just the knowledge that the person you knew is gone, replaced by someone who looks the same but isn't. And you would still have to care for them, still have to keep them safe. Even when they don't recognize you, you would experience trauma. You would see violence, animal attacks, accidents, possibly conflict with other groups. And you would have no therapy, no framework for processing PTSD, just the stories around the fire and the support of your people. Sometimes that would be enough, sometimes it wouldn't. And you would carry the weight of what you've seen for the rest of your life. But here's the paradox. Despite all of this, despite the hardship and pain and loss, there's evidence that Paleolithic people were, in many ways, healthier than early agricultural peoples. Their bones show less disease, their teeth show less decay, their diets, when food was available, were more diverse and nutritious. They worked less, they moved more, they lived in smaller, more intimate groups that matched the social structure our brains evolved for. The real question isn't whether you could survive in the Paleolithic. It's whether you could adapt to the psychological reality. Could you live without privacy, without certainty, without control? Could you accept that death is always close, that suffering is inevitable, that you are profoundly dependent on others and they on you? Modern life has given us incredible gifts: medicine, comfort, knowledge, longevity, the ability to transcend many of the limitations that defined human existence for millennia. But it's also created new forms of suffering: isolation, meaninglessness, chronic stress, the feeling of being a cog in a machine, the sense that nothing you do really matters. The Paleolithic offers no solutions to modern problems. You can't go back. Even if you wanted to, that world is gone. The megafauna are extinct. The forests are farms. The climate has changed. There are 8 billion humans on the planet now. The carrying capacity for hunter-gatherers is maybe a few million at most. The math doesn't work, but you can remember. You can recognize that your brain is still Paleolithic, that your body still expects certain inputs: movement, nature, community, rhythm, story, fire, touch. And when these are absent, something in you withers. Let's talk about what you can take from this. What lessons the Paleolithic offers, not as a blueprint, but as a mirror. First, the importance of rhythm. Your body runs on cycles: circadian rhythms, ultradian rhythms, seasonal rhythms. Modern life disrupts all of these. Artificial light keeps you awake. Shift work scrambles your sleep. Climate control erases seasons. Food is available constantly. The result is dysregulation. Your hormones don't know when to surge or subside. Your body doesn't know when to rest or wake. Finding rhythm again, even imperfectly, helps. Sleeping in darkness, waking with light, eating in windows, moving daily. These aren't biohacks, they're biological necessities your ancestors never had to think about because their environment enforced them. Second, the necessity of movement. Your body was built to move constantly. Not intensely, but constantly. Walking, squatting, bending, reaching, carrying. Modern life is sedentary, punctuated by intense exercise. This confuses the body. It expects low-grade, constant movement. Not sitting for 8 hours, then sprinting on a treadmill. The solution isn't more gym time. It's more life movement. Walking instead of driving. Standing instead of sitting. Carrying things. Using your body as the tool it is. Third, the power of small groups. You're wired for groups of 20 to 150 people. This is called Dunbar's number. Beyond that, you can't maintain real relationships. You can't track everyone's status, needs, emotions. Modern life throws thousands of people at you. Colleagues, acquaintances, online connections. Your brain can't handle it. It treats everyone outside your core group as either invisible or threatening. Focusing on a small circle of deep relationships is not antisocial. It's biologically appropriate. Fourth, the need for competence. You need to know how to do real things that matter. Modern life over-specializes. You're very good at one narrow thing and helpless at everything else. This creates anxiety, a sense of fragility, learning practical skills, making things with your hands, understanding how things work. This builds resilience, not just practical resilience, psychological resilience. Fifth, the value of boredom. Your brain needs downtime, unstructured time, time when nothing is happening. This is when it processes, integrates, creates. Modern life fills every gap. Music in your ears, screens in your hand, constant stimulation. Your brain never rests, and without rest, it can't function properly. Boredom is not a problem to solve. It's a state to protect. Sixth, the importance of story. You understand the world through narrative, not through data, not through facts, through stories. Who did what and why, how it turned out, what it means. Modern life has replaced story with information. You're drowning in information, but information without narrative is noise. You need stories, personal stories, cultural stories, stories that connect you to something larger than yourself. Seventh, the centrality of fire. Literally or metaphorically, you need a center, a hearth, a place that grounds you, where you return, where you gather, where you slow down. For Paleolithic people, this was the fire. For you, it might be a dinner table, a morning routine, a weekly gathering, something consistent, something sacred, something that says, this is home. Eighth, the reality of interdependence. You are not self-sufficient. You never were. You were always part of a web of relationships. Modern individualism is a lie. You need others. For practical help, yes, but more importantly, for meaning, for identity, for witness. You are who you are in relationship to others. Isolation is not freedom, it's deprivation. Ninth, the necessity of ritual, small repeated actions that mark transitions and create structure. Morning rituals, evening rituals, seasonal rituals, rituals around food, around loss, around celebration. These don't have to be religious. They just have to be intentional, repeated, meaningful. They create continuity. They signal to your brain that certain things are important. They transform ordinary time into sacred time. 10th, the wisdom of seasons, not just weather seasons, but life seasons. There are times for activity and times for rest, times for growth and times for consolidation. Modern life demands constant productivity, constant growth, constant output. This is unsustainable. Your body knows this. Your nervous system knows this. Learning to honor the seasons, both external and internal, is not laziness, it's wisdom. Now let's talk about what happens when you truly imagine living in this world. Not as a thought experiment, but as a felt experience. Close your eyes. Feel it. You wake before dawn. The cold bites your skin. You're surrounded by sleeping bodies, their warmth mixing with yours. The fire is dimmed. Your responsibility. You rise, feed it, watch it catch. The first light is grey, then gold. Birds start singing. You don't check your phone. You don't have one. You just sit and breathe and watch the world wake up. Others stir. A child crawls into your lap, wordlessly, just seeking warmth. You hold them. Your hands smell like smoke and earth. The child's hair is tangled. You pick through it absently, removing small twigs, a leaf. This is intimacy, not romantic, not formal, just the casual physical closeness of bodies sharing space. Someone passes you dried meat from yesterday's kill. You chew it slowly. It's tough and takes work. Your jaw muscles engage. This is not mindless eating. This is mechanical, deliberate. You taste salt, fat, the faint char from the fire. It's not delicious by modern standards, but it's food, and food is always good. The day begins its slow unfolding. You don't check the time. There is no time, just the sun's position, just the feeling in your body. Are you rested? Are you hungry? What needs doing? The questions answer themselves through sensation, not thought. You pick up your tools. The weight is familiar, the wood smooth from handling. These tools are yours, not because you own them, but because you made them. Your hands shaped them. They fit your grip perfectly. You know their balance, their edge, their limitations. You walk, not on sidewalks, not on roads, through grass and over stones and between trees. Your feet read the ground. Every step is a negotiation, where to place weight, how to balance. Your ankles are strong, your calves flexible. You don't think about walking, you just walk. And in the walking, your mind empties, or rather fills with noticing the temperature, the quality of light, a distant sound that might be thunder or might be rockfall. You encounter the world not as scenery, but as information. That cloud formation means rain by evening. That bird call means a predator nearby. That broken branch means someone or something passed through recently. You're not analyzing. You're reading, the way you once read social media feeds. But this reading is embodied, immediate, consequential. You find what you're looking for, a plant. You kneel. The ground is damp. You dig carefully, freeing the root without damaging it. Your fingers are caked with earth. This doesn't bother you. Earth is just earth. You smell the root, taste a tiny piece. Yes, this is the one. You place it in your basket. One down. You need more. Hours pass. You don't count them. The sun moves. You move with it. Sometimes you're with others, sometimes alone, but never isolated, because you can always hear someone, a voice in the distance, movement in the brush. You are always loosely connected, always part of the collective, even when physically separate. You return to camp, your basket is full. Others have returned too. There's activity, efficiency without rush. Things need doing and they get done. No one directs, no one commands, everyone just knows. The knowledge is collective, embodied, unspoken. Evening comes. The fire is built up. Food is prepared, the meal is communal. Everyone sits close. You eat with your hands, you lick your fingers, you crack bones and suck marrow. This is not disgusting. This is thorough. This is respect for the animal that died. After eating, the energy shifts. Someone laughs. Someone responds. A story starts. You've heard it before, but it's different each time. The teller adds emphasis here, leaves out a detail there. The story breathes, it's alive. You listen not with your ears alone, but with your whole body. You feel the rhythm, you see the images, you enter the story. Then someone hums, someone else joins. The melody is simple but layered. You add your voice, not performing, just participating. The sound rises around you, through you. You are the song, and the song is you. There's no separation, no stage, no audience, just collective sound that feels like prayer. A child falls asleep against your side. You don't move. You just let them rest there. Their weight is warm and real. You stroke their hair, still picking out small debris, still tending. This is love, not spoken, not demonstrated through gifts or grand gestures, just presence, just bodies, just the continuous small acts of care that hold everything together. The fire dims, the stars are impossible, thick and bright and close. You see the Milky Way like a river. You know its movement. You know the stories attached to each cluster. These aren't scientific facts, they're myths, but myths that connect you to the cosmos. that place you within something vast and old and continuing. You lie down, close to others. You hear breathing, smell smoke and skin, feel warmth on one side and cool air on the other. Your body relaxes not because you're comfortable, but because you're safe. Safe not because there's no danger, but because you're not alone. If danger comes, someone will respond. You can rest. Sleep comes slowly. You drift. You dream. In your dream, you're walking, always walking, following something or being followed. The dreams are vivid, tactile. You wake briefly. The fire is still glowing. Someone is tending it. You drift again. The night is not a void. It's a space, a different kind of time, where the boundaries soften, where the spirit world feels closer, where the dead visit, where the ancestors speak. You don't question this. It's just how things are. Morning comes again. The cycle repeats, not exactly, but close enough. This is life, not chapters, not stages, not a narrative with rising action and climax. Just the daily turning, the constant return, the rhythm that needs no justification because it is its own justification. Let's go deeper into what this existence does to your consciousness, because living this way fundamentally changes how you perceive reality. Your sense of self is different. In modern life, you have a sharp boundary between you and not you. You have privacy, you have property, you have thoughts you don't share. You have a curated version of yourself you present to the world and a private version you keep hidden. But in the Paleolithic, these boundaries are blurred. There is no private self. You are always observed, always known. There's nowhere to hide, and paradoxically, this doesn't feel invasive. It feels like belonging. Your identity is relational. You know yourself through others. You are the one who runs fast, the one who tells funny stories, the one who can find water, the one whose mother died young. These identities are given by the group, not chosen by you. And you don't resist them, you inhabit them because they're true, they're how you contribute, they're how you fit. Your consciousness is less verbal than a modern person's. You think yes, but much of your cognition is non-verbal. It's spatial, visual, kinesthetic. You think with your hands as much as your brain. When you're making a tool, you're not narrating the process to yourself. You're just doing it. Your body knows. When you're tracking an animal, you're not saying to yourself, the print is fresh, the stride is long, the animal is moving fast. You just see it. You know it. The knowledge is immediate and embodied. You also have less metacognition. You don't think about thinking. You don't analyze your own mental processes. You don't worry about whether you're thinking correctly or efficiently. You just think. And most of the time, you don't think at all. You simply perceive and respond. This is not stupidity. This is presence. This is what consciousness looks like when it's not constantly self-monitoring. Your emotions are different too. They're stronger, shorter, and more communal. When something good happens, you feel joy immediately and intensely, but it doesn't last. It peaks and fades. When something bad happens, you feel grief or anger just as intensely, but again, it doesn't last. The emotion moves through you and leaves. You don't hold on to it. You don't replay it. You don't analyze it. You just feel it and let it go. And your emotions are always witnessed. When you're sad, others see it. They respond. They comfort you or give you space, whatever you need. When you're angry, others see it. They intervene or validate, depending on the situation. There are no private emotional crises. Everything is visible. And somehow that makes emotions easier to process because you're not alone in them. Your sense of time is completely alien to a modern person. You live in what psychologists call the extended present. The past is memory, vivid and alive. The future is expectation, vague and flexible. But the present is where you live, always. You don't think about what you'll be doing next week. Next week doesn't exist as a concept. You think about what needs doing today. Maybe tomorrow, but not beyond that. And this isn't short-sightedness. This is attunement to reality. Because in your world, planning too far ahead is pointless. Too much can change. The weather, the animals, the health of the group. You can't control these things, so you don't try, you just respond. This makes you incredibly adaptable. When plans change, you don't get frustrated, you just adjust. When unexpected things happen, you don't panic, you just deal with them. Because unexpected is normal. Change is normal. The only constant is the group and the rhythm. Everything else is fluid. Your relationship with nature is also fundamentally different. You don't see nature as something separate from you. You don't go into nature. You are in nature, always. Nature is not a resource to be used or a backdrop to be admired. It's the context of your entire existence. You don't think about respecting nature. You just do. Because disrespecting it means death. You take what you need. You leave what you don't. You move on. This isn't environmentalism. This is pragmatism. This is understanding that you are part of a system, not above it. You also have a completely different relationship with animals. You don't sentimentalize them. You don't keep them as pets, except maybe a dog. But you also don't see them as objects. You see them as persons. Different kinds of persons, but persons nonetheless. They have intentions, they have knowledge, they have spirits. When you kill an animal, you thank it, not because you think it hears you, but because it feels right, because taking a life is significant. It deserves acknowledgement. You have rituals for this, small ceremonies, words spoken, offerings made. These aren't superstitions. They're psychological technologies. Ways of marking transitions, ways of processing what you've done, ways of maintaining the relationship between human and animal, even across the boundary of death. Your relationship with objects is different too. You don't accumulate things. You can't. You're mobile. Everything you own needs to be carried, so you own very little. But what you do own, you cherish. Not sentimentally, practically. Your knife is precious because you made it, because it took hours, because you know exactly how it cuts, because replacing it would be difficult, so you care for it, you sharpen it, you repair it, you know its history, where you found the stone, who taught you to nap it, what you've used it for. This creates a completely different relationship with the material world. Things are not disposable, things are not replaceable, things are extensions of your skill and your labor. They carry memory, they carry meaning. And when they break, you mourn them. Not dramatically, but genuinely, because something real has been lost. Your relationship with death is also radically different from a modern person's. Death is not hidden. It's not managed by professionals. It's not sanitized. It's present. Always. You've seen it countless times. You know what it looks like, what it smells like, what it feels like. And because of this familiarity, you're not terrified of it. You're respectful of it, cautious of it, but not paralyzed by it. You know you're going to die. Everyone dies. This is not a dark secret you avoid thinking about. This is just a fact. Like the fact that the sun sets. And because you know it, you don't waste time. Not in the productivity sense, but in the present sense. You don't defer life. You don't wait for someday. You live now, because now is all there is. And when someone dies, you mourn them fully. You don't hide your grief. You don't try to be strong. You wail, you keen, you cut your hair or your skin. You paint your face. You let the grief move through you like a storm. And the group holds you. They mourn with you. They keep you alive through it. And then, slowly, the grief integrates. It becomes part of who you are. You carry the dead with you, in memory, in story, in the patterns of your behavior that they shape. stopped. Your spiritual life is also deeply integrated into daily existence. You don't have religion as a separate category. You have beliefs. Yes, you have practices, but they're woven into everything. You don't go to church on Sunday and live secularly the rest of the week. Everything is sacred. The hunt is sacred. The fire is sacred. Birth is sacred. Death is sacred. Even mundane tasks have spiritual significance because everything is connected. Everything is alive. Everything has meaning. You believe in spirits, in ancestors, in the presence of the dead, in the intelligence of animals, in the personhood of places. These beliefs are not metaphors. They're real to you, as real as the ground under your feet. And they shape how you behave. You don't litter because the land has spirit. You don't waste because the animals have spirits. You don't act cruelly because the ancestors are watching. This might sound primitive to modern ears, but it's actually sophisticated. It's a psychological framework that creates ethical behavior without need for laws or enforcement. It's a way of encoding respect, reciprocity, and restraint into a worldview. It works. It's worked for hundreds of thousands of years. Your language is also different. You speak, obviously, you have words for things, but your language is less abstract than modern languages. You have many words for specific types of snow or specific types of plants, but you don't have words for concepts like justice or democracy or progress. You don't need them. Your language is concrete, practical, relational. It describes the world you experience, not theoretical worlds you imagine. Your language is also more embodied. You use gesture constantly. You mimic sounds. You act things out. Communication is not just verbal, it's a whole body affair, and because of this, misunderstandings are less common. You can read someone's intention from their posture, their tone, their eyes. Words are just one channel among many. You also tell the same stories over and over, with variation, yes. But the core remains. And this repetition is not boring. It's comforting. It's binding. It creates a shared reality. Everyone knows the stories. Everyone references them. They're the common language of the group. They're how you understand the world. They're how you remember who you are. Now let's talk about what's lost in modern life and what that loss costs us. The most obvious loss is connection. Modern people are isolated in ways that would seem insane to a Paleolithic person. You live alone or with one or two people. You spend most of your day surrounded by strangers or screens. You have hundreds of shallow connections and maybe a handful of deep ones. Your nervous system doesn't understand this. It thinks you're in danger. It thinks you've been exiled. And it responds accordingly, with anxiety, with depression, with a constant low-level sense of threat. The second loss is competence. Most modern people are helpless. They can't make fire, can't find food, can't build shelter, can't navigate without GPS. They're entirely dependent on systems they don't understand and can't control. And this creates fragility, not just practical fragility, psychological fragility, a sense that you're not capable, that you need constant help, that you can't trust yourself. The third loss is rhythm. Your body runs on cycles that modern life ignores. You're exposed to artificial light at all hours. You eat constantly. You sit for hours, then exercise intensely. You work at times your body wants to sleep. You sleep at times your body wants to wake. And your body never fully adapts. It's in constant low-level dysregulation, and this manifests as sleep problems, digestive problems, hormonal problems, mood problems. Your body is trying to tell you something, and you're not listening. The fourth loss is meaning. Modern work is often meaningless. You do things that don't matter to people you don't know for reasons you don't understand, and your brain knows this. It knows when your labor is connected to survival and when it's not. And when it's not, something in you withers. You feel empty, purposeless, like you're going through motions, and no amount of money or status fills that void, because the void is existential. The fifth loss is presence. Modern life is relentlessly future-oriented. You're always planning, always optimizing, always deferring. You'll be happy when you graduate, when you get the job, when you get the promotion, when you retire, but when never comes. Because when it does, you just set a new when. You never arrive. You're always somewhere else, in your head, in the future, anywhere but here. The sixth loss is story. Modern life has replaced story with information. You consume headlines, tweets, sound bites, fragments without narrative, data without meaning, and your brain doesn't know what to do with this. It's built for story, for beginning, middle, end, for cause and effect, for moral arc. Without story, information is just noise, and you're drowning in noise. The seventh loss is ritual. Modern life is ritual poor. You have routines maybe, but not rituals, not actions imbued with meaning, not transitions marked by ceremony, not sacred time carved out of ordinary time. And without ritual, everything blurs together. Waking and sleeping, working and resting, beginning and ending. There's no structure, no rhythm, just one long, undifferentiated flow. And that's exhausting. The eighth loss is interdependence. Modern culture glorifies independence, self-sufficiency, not needing anyone. But this is unnatural. You're not built to be independent. You're built to be interdependent, to need others and be needed, to give and receive, to be woven into a web of mutual obligation. And when you're not, when you're isolated and self-sufficient, you feel it as loneliness, as meaninglessness, as a void no achievement can fill. So what if you lived in a prehistoric era? You would suffer in ways modern medicine has solved. You would die younger, you would lose more, you would have less control, less comfort, less certainty. But you would also have more presence, more connection, more meaning, more integration. You would be embedded in relationships that matter, embedded in a landscape you know intimately, embedded in a rhythm that matches your biology. You would not have a self in the modern sense. No carefully curated identity, no personal brand, no crisis about who you are or what your purpose is. You would just be a body among bodies, a voice among voices, a life among lives. And somehow, that would be enough. The question isn't whether prehistoric life was better or worse. It's what that life reveals about what we are, what we need, what we've lost, what we're still looking for in all the wrong places. Because that ache you feel, that longing for something you can't name, that restlessness that no app can satisfy, no purchase can fill, no achievement can resolve, that is the echo of a world where your ancestors lived for hundreds of thousands of years, where your brain was shaped, where your nervous system learned what safety feels like, and that world is gone. But the echo remains. In the way your heart rate drops around a campfire, in the way you feel more yourself in nature than in crowds, in the way deep conversation around a table at night feels sacred, in the way certain stories make you cry for reasons you can't explain, in the way you crave touch and presence and being seen, in the way you know somewhere below thought that this modern life, for all its wonders, is missing something essential. What if you lived in a prehistoric era? You would live in your body, you would live in relationship, you would live in rhythm, you would live without knowing what you were missing, because you wouldn't be missing anything. You would simply be alive, fully, completely, in the only way humans knew how to be for almost all of history. And perhaps the real tragedy is not that we can't return, it's that we've forgotten this was ever the default, that for 99% of human existence this was just life. Not primitive, not brutish, not a stage we evolved past, just human. Beautifully, painfully, completely human. The fire still burns inside you, you just forgot to tend it, but it's there, waiting, under all the noise and speed and distraction, still glowing, Still warm, still calling you home to a place you've never been but somehow remember. A place where the only light is firelight, where the only time is now, where the only belonging you need is the person breathing beside you in the dark. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it always was.